I just got into the top 64 at the Los Angeles Regional Championships, playing Festival Lead and Unfair Stamp. And I think this is a pretty cool take on the deck, and I probably wouldn't record a video about it if I wasn't the only festival leader in the room, or at least the only festival leader playing this A-Spec in Phase 2 of the tournament this past weekend. And I'll talk about why I decided to play Festival Lead first, is because, one, I just didn't want to play Dragapult. Dragapult's an ugly Pokemon, he's hideous to look at, and I didn't want to play mirror matches all day. Second, I think that Festival Lead into the anti-Dragapult decks are fairly strong. Those matchups are very good, and Unfair Stamp specifically can help against the weirdo decks that also might have a better matchup into Dragapult. Unfair Stamp can also serve as a stronger A-Spec into Dragapult as well, because if you knock out their one Dragapult and stamp them, sometimes that's enough for you to get one more turn ahead and to win that round outright. Secret Box is great on the first turn of the game, sometimes the second, but if you're being itchy pollened and item locked, you don't get to set up. You don't get to play the card that you typically that you would want in order to get your guys off the ground and to get your strategy together. And by the time that your opponents have taken a couple knockouts, it doesn't quite serve as the comeback card that you need it to. Unfair Stamp, on the other hand, does. I think Maximum Belt is horrible. Maximum Belt is great for helping you get to Mega Kangaskhan numbers, but into Dragapult, you can't get to 320 without another modifier. Now, it might be cool with Lilligant, and I think Lilligant is cool if you wanted to make sure that you knocked out Monkey Dory, but I kind of was more on the line of just having the most consistent, most aggressive build of just having 4 Applin, 4 Dipplin, 4 Thwackey, 4 of the 3 made item cards that you'd play, Poké Pad, Buddy Poffin, as well as Bug Catching Set, and just getting off the ground ASAP. While my techs may not necessarily be as cute, I think they're better for the Dragapult matchup, and I think is a testament to how well at least I did against the deck. Let's go ahead and jump into the list, and I'll explain a little bit more about why I chose to play the cards that I did. Getting into the deck now, I played a 4-4 Dipplin line this weekend, which makes the most sense in a deck that needs to be as consistent and aggressive as possible. Now, the 2-2 Applin split didn't actually matter, but I liked having the second Spray Fluid Applin in the event I did hit Cornerstone. It was just a guarantee that I had that in play and not having to rely on the Tumbling Attack flip heads. Now, that can get kind of dicey if you mess up and aren't able to convert on that, but it never came up because Cornerstone didn't exist this weekend. I don't know why people are cutting the 4th Dipplin right now in a tournament or in a deck that needs to be as consistent as possible. Just having Dipplin in hand instead of having to search for it with Poké Pad or try to hit it with Bug Catching Set, it just makes more sense just to run a 4-4 line. It also means you don't have to burn a resource on recovering it, especially in my list that only plays 2 recovery cards. That same logic kind of is consistent with the 4-4 Thwackey line. I don't play any Rillaboom because I didn't really care too much about Cornerstone, especially when I have these 2 Applin, as well as the probably first standout part of my deck, which is the 2-1 Rabsca line. Now in a straight Pult, which was one of the most popular decks this weekend, you want to ensure Rabsca stays online at all times. And that means having a second Rellor on the bench whenever possible. Because if they boss up the Rabsca and you're unable to produce a second Rabsca, that could open the door to just a plethora of shenanigans where they are able to take 2 prizes the following turn. There could be monkey plays where they put 30 on an Applin from a risky Ruins or a combination of things, and it just gets really ugly really quickly. So being able to respond with maybe a boss on a Rabsca by benching it again immediately gives you not only the time that you need to redevelop your strategy and your attacker, but just ensures that your opponent isn't taking multiple prizes in a single turn. Just a little piece of advice though, when you are playing against straight Pult, you typically don't want to leave damage in play. So against Dragapult, really focus on knocking out the Dragapult with 1 Dipplin and not necessarily going for 200, because they can develop a Monkey Dory very easily. They can Crispin in energy to the Monkey Dory, and it gets really dicey really fast because they can not only move damage onto an Applin and then Phantom Dive it away, but they could also target little guys like Rellor, little guys with Goldeen. God forbid they play 2 Monkey Dory, and then now you're just completely cooked and you don't get any other little guys back on board. These guys have so little HP. Dragapult should be respected at all times when playing against it. You just literally cannot be more safe by playing a 2-1 Rabsca. Moving on to the other Pokemon in the deck, I'm only playing 1 Goldeen. The 1 Goldeen is good enough. Festival Lead is just on a basic is very good. There's my face. And it just does what it does. I had to actually use Whirlpool against my round 8 opponent, shout out Austin, and it's very bad. You don't want to have to attack with Goldeen. I don't want to use, I don't play Seeking because I play Genesect for the mirror instead, which is good enough because Ace Nullifier is very good. In the mirror, you can prevent them from using Secret Box, you can prevent your opponents from using Unfair Stamp against you. The fact that it has -30 resistance into the mirror is quite good. It forces them to only take one prize card that turn if you decide to shove up the Genesect and then balloon it and do whatever you need to do. I think you're being a little cheeseball if you're not playing both the Shaymin and the Psyduck. Shaymin is great for Water Pond, which ended up being pretty relevant this weekend for me. And Psyduck is just important in a format where there's there's still Dusknoir that's out there. Just protect yourself. The trainer line is pretty standard. There's just not a whole lot going on here differently aside from the A-Spec, of course. You want to play 4 Lilies because it's the most consistent option that we have right now. 2 Boss. I'm okay with 2 Boss right now. There was a point where I was playing 3 Boss. There are lists that play 2 Boss, 1 Prime. When you're using Boss's orders, just be mindful about when and what you're targeting with Boss's orders. So into Dragapult, for example, target the energy. Just target the energy, force your opponent to have Crispin, and just make sure you give yourself as much time to attack as possible. What you'll see them typically do is they'll shove up, you'll boss a Dracloak with an energy on it, you'll knock it out, but then they'll promote like a Monkey Dory or something goofy like that. That's okay. You're keeping energy off the board. Just don't swing into the Monkey Dory so that they don't do that, Adrenabrain shenanigans and knocks out multiple guys, especially when you don't have Rabsca on board. So Boss's order is quite good, but most of the time you're just going to swing into the active because you're using damage modifiers like Kieran or Black Belt's training. This 2-1 count is more than enough. You just need 2 Kieran or just 2 any combination of these 3 cards to knock out 2 Dragapult. As you can tell, this is a very Dragapult-centric, Dragapult-oriented matchup concocted deck because it's the biggest threat in the room right now. So plus 30 is enough. Plus 40 is going to be for your Mega Starmies, for your Mega Lucario, etc. Lana's 8 is the only resource retrieval supporter that I use, and it's been enough. There's really not too much to say about that, but Lana's 8 is quite good. I wouldn't play the deck without at least 1 copy. I had built my deck to be as aggressive and consistent as possible, which is why I play the 4-4-4 item split. You just want to play all your items on the first turn because you're going to get itchy pollen and you won't be able to play them. So giving yourself to as many outs as to Pokemon as possible is super important. Also just thins the deck. Also just good in general. Bug Catching Set, being able to find Grass Energy is good. I totally understand why people are cutting Bug Catching Set, but in my build, I think you need 4. You just need to rush and find your guys as quickly as possible. As many Applin, as many Rellor, etc. Just find your green guys, put them on the bench, and pass your turn so that you can get item locked in and hopefully draw into the rest of your stuff. It's important that if you are playing against Dragapult, to Poké Pad for your stuff in advance. Poké Pad for your stuff preemptively. I like to play Bug Catching Set first because this is the most, luck-based card. This is your most random item card, for lack of better words, I guess. But use Bug Catching Set, see what you whiffed, see what you hit, and then Buddy-Buddy Poffin and Poké Pad for everything else. Night Stretcher is very good just as a one-of. It's all the recovery that I've needed when playing this deck. Things do get a little weird against the single prize decks, Alakazam, the Team Rocket Spidups decks. Night Stretcher can be, you might be like, man, I wish I had 2. But if you get a fast enough start, you can typically overrun them and be okay. Tool Scrapper I wanted to have in the event I was playing against any Hero's Cape decks. Cornerstones with Hero Cape can be difficult to deal with, but if you can scrap the Hero's Cape and hit him with Rellor a couple times, you're good to go. I don't think I'll ever play this deck without Unfair Stamp because against Dragapult, for example, if you hit him with an Unfair Stamp early, they typically only get 1 Dragapult charged up at a time. So knock out their 1 Dragapult before doing that. Unfair Stamp them, knock out their 1 Dragapult, and ask them, make them have the 2nd Dragapult charged up on the following turn. And if they can't do that, you typically just win the game outright. Huge fan of Unfair Stamp. It's great against the weird decks. I know that in my round 5 match against Okidogi, I Unfair Stamped them on the 2nd turn of the game, and they just could not get going again, and I was able to win a typically horrible matchup because of Unfair Stamp. So wouldn't play the deck without it. 2 Brave Bangle is all you need because you only need to knock out 2 Dragapult, and in order to reach that 320 threshold. 2 Balloon is great because you're playing Genesect and you need to attach a tool to it, and just having 2 helps against those decks where you just need to retreat. I know some people will play Switch, but I don't like getting my Thwackey bossed and then Itchy Poland. I want to be able to at least balloon it instead of just sit there with a Switch in my hand that I can't use. Force Festival Grounds is important because you need to max out the stadium that your deck literally revolves around. And then you want to make sure that you have the coolest grass energy in the room. So whether that's the Call of Legends grass energy or the Heart Gold Soul Silver energy, or my personal favorite, the EX Emerald grass energy, these ones you always find them off the Bug Catching set, and they look super sick. So that's pretty much the list. Let's just kind of get into some closing thoughts, I guess. Overall, Festival Lead is just a sick deck to play while you're not bricking, which is something that happens a lot. In best of 3 format, giving yourself a round to just kind of like surrender and recognize, okay, my deck is not working, is okay, because you have 2 other games to kind of figure that out. So don't get discouraged while you're playing Festival Lead, as long as you're playing to your outs, and use your stamp to buy yourself that turn when you think you might need one. Festival Lead moving forward, I still don't think we'll have the target on its back because Dragapult's the big bad of the format. Everybody's going to be working to combat Dragapult, and I don't think that Festival Lead will really be teched against all that much. If I were to go to Indianapolis, I'd probably run my same 60. Tool Scrapper is something that I would probably keep in the deck because of Handheld Fan being pretty popular, especially in some of those weird decks. I think that, you know, in the weird decks, I'm thinking like round 7, my Team Rocket opponent played 2 Fan. Alakazam now plays Fan for whatever reason. I guess it's also good into Pulp. So I'd probably keep the Tool Scrapper. I want to have something for Hero's Cape as well. And I'd have to think on the Genesect. I don't know if I'd want Genesect more than Sea King, but I know the Genesect was great into the mirror and also hits a lot of things like my opponent's own stamp or whatever they choose to play. So, hey, thanks for listening. This was a bit of a journal for me as well, just to kind of reflect on my run. I had a lot of fun playing this deck. It's obviously great 66% of the time. The other third of the time you're bricking and you're asking yourself, God, why? But yeah, if you decide to pick up this deck, or if you have any other questions, drop in the comments, shoot me a message on Twitter. But hey, yeah, thanks for listening. Appreciate you. All the best to you. See ya.